Now, one last thing I want to talk about before we get to questions and answers is I want to talk a little bit about motivation and slow processing speed. So, some of my recent research looks at motivation because what I was finding is as I was seeing these kids grow into adulthood, is that a fair number of them seemed unmotivated, or like a lot of parents were saying to me, he's so lazy. So, I want to just talk for 5 minutes about motivation and kind of think about what is it about motivation? How can we support kids with slow processing speed and poor motivation? So motivation, as you can see here, it consists of three different areas: initiation, intensity, and persistence. These are all executive function skills: getting started, being focused, and sticking with something. So paying attention for a long time. And so all of these things are important aspects of motivation. We kind of have to think about these. And this just gives you, I just want to give you a smattering of some ways to think about this. How can we apply that information? For example, low initiation, they can't get started. Well, we need to break down tasks. We need to make lists. They need to know where to start. How do you start? Low intensity, we need to remove distractions. We need to set timers so that, okay, let's be intense for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And low persistence means that they have trouble sticking with something. So we have to take breaks. We have to model resilience for them. Okay, so I will stop right there. Like I said, there's that some of those activities came from the new book that I wrote with a co-author, Dr. Hilary Bush. And then these are the sorts of things that I sort of talked about. I will stop sharing, and sorry to go through those very quickly, those last things, but I wanted to give you an idea about how there, even though we don't have a quick fix for slow processing speed, there are lots of things that we can do. And a lot of it depends on us talking about ourselves, understanding ourselves, and figuring out how the environment can be changed to accommodate that. So, Dr.
Well,
Lee, or Gilda,
I'm just gonna a little cap, just a little summary of what I heard, and you tell me how I'm doing, okay? So I loved your explanation about the biology and the understanding that this is not a willful thing, that there is science behind it of what's happening and what we can do. We need to accept them for who they are, understand that, help them make those accommodations and advocate for them because if we're not doing these things, it's going to lead to that constant cycle of anxiety, which is just going to increase that slow processing speed, and it just continues. I loved your suggestions about what happens in schools, using more nonverbal signals, and certainly for parents as well. In understanding just the simpleness of more time to respond. Um, I love this. Let them email the questions afterwards. It's just so helpful. Don't get rid of recess and downtime. They may need even more than everybody else. How that praise is so key to those kids. And this one really spoke to me. And you and I, we all know this. You know, I think about, we had David Yeager not too long ago with his book, 10 to 25 Motivating Young People, about the humiliation. If you humiliate that child in your classroom, make no mistake, their learning cannot take place. And so I think that just bears repeating. And then you know, just these simple things you said about the sports that are good, and someone responded about that, the swimming, the gymnastics, golf, not those team sports always, but how valuable it is to teach kids to understand themselves and then, of course, teach them through modeling to advocate for themselves. When you go out to lunch, when you go out to dinner, order for yourself. Um, I went really fast, but how did I do?
you did great. Your
Okay.
processing speed was terrific. I know there's a lot that I could talk about with this, and teachers are the experts on this, really. And I feel like giving them permission to know that they know these kids. Like when I talk to a group of teachers, they're like, I know these kids in my classroom, and so it's hard though to accommodate because
Yeah.
that everyone is pressured to get a lot done in a given day. And so the accommodations are oftentimes give them more time, but then what do you do? So it is tough.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. It is. Dr. Lee, I'm going to go to you for a question.
Yeah, I'm going to be quick, but because I will tell you, Dr. Braaten, you left us wanting more. You started going right into screen time, and I'm like, wow, this could be a whole nother hour here.
Oops,
Um, you know,
definitely. Yeah.
yeah, exactly what you said about our teachers. They're so skilled at that wait time, right? And what I heard too, Gilda, was a champion for our introverts. I think so many times we have set up activities that involve extroverts to right away jump into something, and we don't allow some of that's just individual thinking and time and for them to process. So I love that. I had to put on my parent hat. I'm a parent of three kids, and as you were talking about that, I started thinking, okay, all right, I've got a whole list I'm ready to take home to two of them. But one of the things that I thought about is, as a parent, often our urge to hurry our children comes from our own anxiety
Yep.
about their future success. What would you say to parents like me or anyone else? How can parents manage our own speed envy or fear that our children will fall behind in a fast-paced world?
I that is so key. I'm so glad you brought that up because it is so much of our own anxiety. Like, what's going to happen to my kid if they don't keep up? And I think we need to trust the fact that if our kids are loved and if they have a sense of efficacy in the world and they are able to cope with, I mean, the research shows that kids with learning differences, if we can get them into college, they are more resilient than kids who do not have learning differences. And so it's about getting them there and trusting that when they're there and we accept them for who they are, they accept themselves, they will find their way. And that is the toughest thing to do as a parent, is to let them find their way. We want them, we want to take them on that journey that we think they should be on. So, thinking about loving the child you have, not the child you wish you had, not the child you wish they were, the hardest thing to do, but the most important thing we can remember is just like to revel in who they are, let them know they're loved, and we will support them regardless. They will do their own thing. They'll be who they're meant to be.
Love
Oh,
that.
that's wonderful. That's yeah, I love it. I love it.
Lydia has a question, it's kind of my question too. Help us with the vocabulary, and it's probably time to end, but help us with the vocabulary. How do I talk to my child now that I have this information? How do I talk to the child's teachers and counselors? Give us the script.
Okay, so a couple of things with your child already knows. Like, kids know this about themselves. And so to do this in a way that's positive. Hey, we found something. You had this evaluation done, and this is wonderful. We found out a lot about you. And one of the things we know about you is that you're a deep thinker who likes to take his time to really chew on a topic in depth. And our world and sometimes the classroom doesn't really value that sort of learning, but you are really a specialist in that kind of learning. And so we've got to figure out how to make sure that your kind of learning style is really accommodated. And so to start with that this is a positive thing. And oh, we are so fortunate to know this information about you and to start with that. So that's how to sort of frame, I could go on and on, but that's the kernel of it, is positive, positive, and what can we do? And we are going to work together to sort of figure out who you are and who we are too. You need to understand me as a parent. Am I too fast? Am I, how do I support you? In terms of teachers, it's funny, even now teachers don't know about this. This is not a disorder. It's not, and if teachers see a child with this slow processing speed who don't know about processing speed weaknesses, they're going to assume it's ADHD. Well, it might be, but there's a 40% chance there isn't. And so in that case, medication is not going to be is not going to work. So to be a parent, you've got to think about, as a parent, I have to advocate for my child, with my child, but also in the school setting and vice versa. There are teachers who know about this issue that can then advocate and teach the parent about this. So it works both ways. We're all learning new things, and it's not, we can't go into this like the teacher doesn't know about this. How do they not know about this? It's about, this is something that is still new and a new area of research, and we don't even have the right kind of label to talk about it. We don't have the right sort of diagnosis. So being able to be confident as a parent, being informed, there's a lot, doing and becoming educated in times like this, and can really be helpful. And most teachers are really grateful for that sort of information.
Does slow processing speed sometimes rear its head as children get older and the work gets more complicated?
Yes. So what I find developmentally is it really hits a peak in middle and high school because the work just ramps up. What I do find, again, a lot of it is just keeping that self-esteem and that flexibility and resiliency going through high school. What I tell people though is as you move into college, what happens is you find your lane. So, you can be a medical doctor with slow processing speed. You're probably not going to be happy in the ER. You're probably going to be happier as a radiologist in a field of medicine, law, business, where that slow processing speed, looking at one thing over and over again, is an asset. So that's our goal, is to figure out how do you get into that field where your information, your abilities are an asset and not a liability. Unfortunately, through childhood, you've got to be able to you got to learn about everything. You can't specialize in eighth grade in radiology, but to keep that as the goal, I think is important.
You talked about modeling. Why is modeling so important?
Because you've got to be able to show, first of all, your own resilience. You've got to be able to show your own motivation. So parents should be thinking about what motivates me. If I'm an unmotivated person who's not getting enough pleasure in my life, who's doing things that are not in my zone of competency, I'm not providing a model for a child on how to negotiate life's challenges.
You're reminding me as we're closing, you're reminding me of someone who's recently said that we have to also model that adult life is really not all that terrible because why would a child ever want to become adult, right? If we're constantly giving them a picture of this is tough. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's what some kids get to like. I don't want to do that. I don't want to work for, sun up till sundown and then some and not ever enjoy life. They don't see their parents enjoying life, doing the things that they love to do. So that's really important for us to show our kids that life is really also about us figuring out what gives us pleasure. Yeah.
closing comment, Dr. Lee, as we say goodbye.
I think this, what you're talking about and what we've engaged in this space is extremely timely. I think every single day, um, it seems that we're just getting faster and faster, and we didn't even talk about AI, so we won't even go there.
Oh, I
Uh,
know. I know that's a whole, there's so many things to talk about,
yeah,
but yeah,
but
yeah, the
Dr.
world is
Braaten,
just getting faster. Yeah.
yeah, I love what you
On
said, and I would just remind everyone on here that we truly education is a partnership. That everything that your child the best, and everything you can do to partner with that teacher in the classroom is just going to pay out dividends. We truly see it as a partnership.
Fabulous. On May 5th, Catherine Price is going to be with us virtually. She has written a book in partnership with Jonathan Haidt called The Amazing Generation, talking about how kids need to learn this about the effect of social media. What we've just added is another hour where she will be talking to the children. So, Dr. Lee, whatever you can do, and any educators that are listening, she will speak from 12 to 1, and then we show it in the classrooms to the 9 to 13-year-olds so they can listen in. And can't wait to have you back, Dr. Broughton, so we can
I
talk
love
about
it.
that new book. Thank you so much, everybody, for the gift of your time. See you again. Take care.